Cheers, mate. Thank you. Evening. So let me tell you how this is going to work tonight, because it's not going to be like a normal talk you'd come to. I don't really consider myself a speaker as such. I mean, I'm a coach, so I help people draw out their power, to connect deeply, to do whatever they need to live fulfilling lives and create amazing stuff in the world. That's what I love to do. So tonight, what I'd love from you, actually, because it's going to be very interactive. So you up for playing tonight and actually getting an experience of this? Yeah? Can a bit louder? That's more like it. Yeah, because you're not just going to share the concepts, you're going to get to experience it throughout the evening. So you'll get to connect deeply, to actually find out what it means to find your people, and maybe find some here. I mean, actually, if you just look around at the people in the room for a moment, just take your time to just look around, that's it, wave at Matt at the back there. See, people here could become a good friend, could become a colleague, could become a client, could become, someone, could become a lover, could become someone you get married to, maybe. So yeah, watch out. You just never know. You see, if you go out in the world connecting with people just to connect, you never know where that's going to lead. It's connecting without attachment or without needing anything from someone, So that's what I want from you. So what I'd like to also set up, because it gets quite noisy when you're doing stuff and it gets very loud, it's hard to hear me really. So when it comes time for the exercise to end, I'm going to put my hand up. Now, I don't know if anyone's been to talk to they've done this, but then if you see me with my hand up, if you can just raise your hand and stop speaking, and then if everybody does that, there's like a hush that appears across the room. So are you okay? Will you do that? Are you up for doing that this evening? Fantastic. And if you notice anyone next to you who's talking still, if you could just touch their arm gently and just show them, because when people get involved, it's very hard to pull them out sometimes. Okay? Do you agree for that? Excellent. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about me. So, I mean, I've got a lot I could say, but let me talk about the last year of my life. It's probably the best one. On November 1st, it was exactly 1 year anniversary from the day after I quit my job, my first day of freedom from a year ago. And I worked at a job for 17 years in a very fixed mindset, didn't even go for an interview because I didn't think I had the skills or abilities to do anything. Then I went on this crazy journey of personal development and learning how to coach people and make an impact, and that's what I left to do. Now, the reason I left was because my grandma at the time, I was 99, had a fall, and I phoned up my boss and I said, I can't come in today, it was a Friday morning, and he was like, have you done this letter? Didn't ask how she was, didn't ask anything about her. She's 99 years old, right? He knew my situation. So in my mind, I'm like, she could be dying for all he knows in this moment. We could be rushing to the hospital and he'd ask me about a fucking letter. Excuse my language, by the way. I do tend to swear, I don't mean to, but it slips out. So in that moment, something crystallized. I knew they didn't care about their staff. I knew this. But when something's like shown in your face, you can't stop seeing it. So 10 days later, I handed my notice in. 2 weeks after that, I was gone from that place forever. And then I embarked on an incredibly terrifying journey of trying to make money as a coach, years of months of not being able to pay bills and struggling and getting into more debt and not knowing what's going to happen, until finally burning out the need. I got to a point where I didn't need money anymore. It's like I knew I'd be okay no matter what happened. If I lost my house, I'd be fine. And that kind of freed me up then. Then I went from a place of like wanting to exchange things, like, I'll give you this if you give me that, just being free to give. And that really is what shifted it, enabled me to connect deeply with people, to connect, there'd be clients, friends, the whole lot, and everything shifted for me from then. And from then on, I've been living what I call my dream life based around my values. Because of what I did, I got to spend the last 10 months of my grandma's life with her before she died in July, which I would not have done if I'd have stayed in that job, So deep connections for me is about my family, about my friends, about the people I love, and creating a business and life around the things that matter most. That's what it means to me. Does that sound good to you as well, doing that? Fantastic. So, okay, so let's begin. I normally, just, as you can see, I just speak from the heart as I go. However, I did write a couple of things down for a change. So actually, what I'd like is just someone volunteer who can write well. My writing is pretty bad. I'd just like to get some things from you guys to put on the board. Who's up for doing that? Who wants to step forward? No? You don't have to. I can do it. My writing's just not great. Yeah?
Come on, somebody can do it.
Come on. The person who says that, maybe?
My writing's rubbish.
Good man. Thank you. Yeah. So this is very simple. Why are you here actually? What would you love to take from this, from connecting deeply and finding your people? Just start speaking. Why are you here? There's too many, I can't cope.
No man is an island. We need each other.
We need each other. Okay. Why do we need each other?
Because alone we have a certain amazing set of skills, each of us. But when we're together, the whole is worth more than the sum of its parts. So it's not just that you add our skills and our energy together, it actually multiplies exponentially when you come together.
That's good. That's very good. Yeah, that's very true. In fact, it's a common lie. You know, when people think we can do it on our own, we can't. We evolved as a species to be able to work as a tribe to create everything around us. In fact, there's a theory that we're dialogical beings as humans. You know, when we have an idea and it's within us, but it's not until we start speaking it and interacting and they start challenging us on it, we actually create something. You know, it's through dialogue. Beautiful. Okay, who else? If you don't want to say personally why you're here, why is connecting deeply a good thing? Why do you want to connect deeply?
I think we learn things about ourselves from other people in our interactions.
So learning about ourselves from our interactions. Yeah.
You use the word tribe. I think that's critical.
What's that?
The word tribe.
Tribe.
People need a tribe. They need a sacred narrative. They need a place where they belong.
A place where they belong. Yes. Very good. In fact, that links into the your people piece. I don't know if you know what your people is, but for me, it's the people that love you for who you are and who you love for who they are. You know, there's none of that, and also an alignment of values. I find. Yes.
I feel like there's so many missed opportunities. You know, so having the skills to know how to turn a random meeting with somebody you've never met before into a deep conversation is obviously very important. And not only people you don't know, but family members and people you know just a little and so on. To be able to go deeper is really fulfilling.
Yeah. And I like that you said that because, again, it's all very well meeting new people, but yes, what about the people that are already in your life, you know, your loved ones already? Yeah, really important. And I like the deeper conversation too. That's kind of like my entire life is around deep conversations. So this fits perfectly with deep connections and finding your people. Yeah, thank you. Yes?
It's more fun.
It's more fun. It is, right? And is it the deep connecting or the your people bit?
The deep connecting.
What's more fun about it?
Just, it stops everything from just being samey, having the same kind of trite conversations. It's really fun to just to find something out that you didn't know before.
You have to find something out you didn't know, right? Because everyone's a whole world, a universe of experiences, and yet most of the time we stay at the surface, don't we? Well, we don't, but you know, I used to for most of my life. Yeah. So, what else? Yes.
I think to progress in life, I think so many times when you meet the same people or you work in an office where you are dealing with the same kind of people, your conversation and your experience is going to stay at that level. But if you meet just one person that changes your view about something, then it'll take you further.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins, perfect example.
Yeah.
Where you hear something from Tony Robbins and you think, you know what, I didn't think of it like that. And totally just changed your opinion about things.
Yeah, that's great.
Just to move on, I guess.
Yeah, obviously there's public profile figures like Tony Robbins, but like you say, meeting someone in the street. I mean, I remember I was on a train a couple of months ago, and we just happened to be late for a train with this guy. Started chatting, found out he's the narrator for the War Horse in London, you know, and also he's got this family that his sister who's like traveling his world with her daughter and her son. It's like, wow. This just ordinary guy I just bumped into, you know. He found out these incredible things, which then gave me, then I had a conversation with someone else who was thinking that they want to go travelling with their daughter, and they're like, they can't because they're too young. But because it's already been done, now, you know, it helped them to make their decision up, you know. So you never know what treasure you're going to find in the person in front of you or the person sitting next to you. Yes?
Actually, I was going to say something really similar, but I think our view of reality is entirely based on who we know and what their view of reality is. So every time you make a real deep connection with someone, you're expanding your version of reality. You might have something you say is not possible, but you might meet someone whose neighbour has done that.
Yes, That's really good. Yeah, exactly. The people around you are like a reflection, aren't they? And like the walls you create around you are generally the same as the people that are closest to you. I mean, there's actually a thing, isn't there, that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Average money, average experiences, average, quality of life for those people. So if you look around at the 5 people you spend the most time with, make sure they're fucking exciting people, right? Anything else? Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I believe that, one of the biggest blessings in our lives is the good people around us. Ones we already know and ones that we are going to meet. But, it's good to be focused on goals. I'm sure everybody over here has been listening to a lot of stuff like that. Focus on your goal, follow it and all. Yeah, but not to the extent that you just shut yourself out from the world. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Trust me, like I'm telling from first-hand experience, because up till now, this year has been a real wake-up call for me, in a lot of senses. Up till now, I've been always just like in a tunnel vision, where I got this thing and I'm just focusing on that. That's what I'm doing. But I realized that I'm not only neglecting myself that way in a lot of other areas, but I'm also neglecting people that mean a lot to me. Good friends and family and all that. So I think you should pay more attention to like where we're going as a whole. Yourself and your family and friends. I think that's our real.
That's actually really good, because I coach a lot of people who are creating amazing things in the world, right? It seems there's incredible stuff they're going for, and they often think, right, when I get there, then I can give more time to my family. When I get there, then I can give more time to my friends, right, and create the life that I want. The reality is that what if you never get there? What if something happens and you die before that happens, right? Then you spent the rest of your life having not had those connections. So yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. One more. Anyone else? Yeah.
Can I just say
Cool.
that?
Yes, please.
I think that there's a shift in consciousness. We're going from head to heart,
Mm.
and we're all one big family, so we should all be connecting and loving one another.
That's really beautiful, actually. Yeah, that is beautiful. And in fact, I'm an example of this, because I was very much in my head most of my life. Causing most of my problems, in fact. And however, I don't consider myself spiritual in the way that that a lot of people talk about it, but I do find myself being more spiritual, as in to do the interaction with the people around me. When you connect deeply, it's kind of like a spiritual connection, just not in a deity kind of way, in a real humanity kind of way, definitely. And I do feel there's a shift happening, at least there is in my world, because I surround myself with my people who are that way inclined. And that's the great thing tonight. You get to find these people for yourself, here tonight and when you go to the pub later. Great. I think that will do for now, won't it, as to why. Just keep that in your mind as you're going through the evening too, how you can incorporate this into what you take from here. So, right. So the first one, it's over to you guys. So, first one, please stand up, find yourself someone you do not know, and then say hi, and then we'll stop and I'll give you the exercise, okay? So find someone new. Thank you for that. So just before we dive into the exercise, what kind of things were you talking about just then?
Just then?
Yeah.
I think it's quite funny because he revealed something about himself, and we haven't had a chance to share yet. He doesn't realise that I have exactly that thing about me. So we have something very similar in common, which he doesn't know yet. And just by me asking, what is it about this year that's so special? And he explains something. He doesn't know yet, but we have something big in common.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one, because but by being curious, you found that out, right? And you, by being willing to share, is how you maybe connected at that level, right? Who else did you talk about? What kind of things? Did anyone go beneath the surface like they did? It's okay. The answer's no. It's cool. It was short. It was short, but even when it's short, there is a point that you could go straight in with something a little bit deeper, especially in a safe environment like this. You go straight into anything you wanted to. It's just good to have. I just want to have that sort of a litmus test of a comparison to how you went in now, and by the end, what you'll be doing. Okay, it's just nice to have that, to be aware of that. Okay, so first exercise. So just share with the other person, what is your greatest accomplishment in your life? Whatever that is for you. So just share that with each other. So what is it and why does it feel like that? Yeah? Share the love. What was that like? Was it a challenge when you were sharing your greatest accomplishment? Was it good? Did you enjoy doing that? Did it feel good? It sounded like what?
It sounded like a normal conversation I'd have when I meet somebody new.
Ah, so you talk about your greatest accomplishments normally.
Each other, so.
That's okay. We're going to go deeper. Don't you worry. It's a good beginning. So, what was that like for you guys? Do you normally come straight out with that kind of thing when you first meet? No. Okay. It's good to know. Yeah.
Depends.
Yeah.
Depends on the person. Depends on how it.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody's open to you, you're more comfortable to be open back. You know.
Yeah.
Well, at least
Yeah, it's an interesting one though, isn't it? Because that means you're kind of waiting for them to do it first. Whereas actually when you're open, then it's an invitation.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's what I meant was it's easier for both of you, you know, because you see that, you know.
Yes.
You have to agree not to waste time on chit-chat.
Yeah, beautiful, right? In fact, that's a great opener. Do you know what? I hate small talk. Can we talk about something that matters to us?
Yeah.
Right? And if they say no, then you know to move on pretty quick, right?
I've got a friend who never says, how are you? He says, what's the greatest thing happening in your life at the moment?
Beautiful.
Beautiful way to start.
Yeah, that is a beautiful way to start. Yeah. Yeah, and whatever's happening, you're going to get an interesting answer, right? Yeah. Yeah, so was anyone discomforting sharing your greatest accomplishment like that? Or was it all good? You were a little bit, were you?
Stumps you, though. Even your question stumps you, right? When someone asks that question, it's a big question, it's a broad question.
Yeah.
It's like, where do I start? Because you don't get that question every day.
Great. No, that's good. The point is to think deeper, right? And to connect to something within, which is what these questions are going to be for. Beautiful. Okay, so switch up now. Find someone new. Try not to talk too much, though. We want to get into the next exercise. So it's very rare I'll say not to speak much, but yeah. Wow, it's like a roar that happens. Beautiful. Okay, so the next question is, or you're going to answer is, what do I stand for? You know, what is it that you stand for that matters to you? You know, what's a core value of yours? So if someone was, you know, on your like epitaph, it'd be like, this is what my life meant. Share that. Okay. Take some time, by the way, if you need to think for a moment, and then share what's true for you in that moment. Okay. Beautiful. So, what was your experience of that, of saying about what you stood for?
That was hard.
Yeah? Which was hard, the thinking of it or the actual sharing of it?
It was actually the thinking of it and kind of figuring out exactly what it is. So, yeah, we want to be thinking about later on as well, I think.
Yeah. Which is interesting, right? Because you're walking through our lives, you know, our lives have meaning, and yet we don't connect to that often because we're so busy, right? So yeah, that's good. It's good for you and good for the person you're with, because if you know what they stand for, you know what you stand for. It's very simple to know if you connect or not. So yeah, who else? Who else had an experience of that? That was useful to share. Yes.
I think it's easier if the person has the answer for you.
If the person
Has the answer for you, because then you can just answer, because it's almost like you just said, you can connect because you've got the same kind of values. When you get stumped on an answer like that, when the other person says what you want to hear, then you kind of say, yeah, same thing last time, was it? So you steal the answer.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. The thing is, it's useful to do that because if you don't know, then finding out what resonates is a good thing, definitely. But I would encourage you actually, if you don't know what you stand for, you don't have a clear, like this matters to me more than anything, worth exploring that. Because if you're going out in the world not knowing that, then how are you going to meet your people? Because if you don't know, how the hell are they going to know, right? Yeah. Anyone else want to share their experience? Yes.
I struggle with when I say what I stand for, I can get a bit evangelical, you know, and it's hard to kind of balance really expressing what I stand for without getting a bit.
No, I found it
Strong.
I found it fascinating. Don't worry.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. But you know, it's that's that sort of striking that balance between not being too forceful with your beliefs and maybe that's something that sits within me.
Yeah, there's different parts to this, because if that's who you are and that's how you want to be, then moderating it and watering it down is you kind of, putting a false front to the person you're meeting. Where actually it's like, no, this is like the watered down me, but when you get to know me really, then you're going to get it, right? Where actually, if that's who you are, then actually your people will be drawn to that. Just like that lady said, she was interested in that, right? So I'd say if evangelical is who you are,
You've got a special background, that's
yeah,
the thing.
yeah,
So it wouldn't probably apply to other people because her background is very sort of relevant, very special.
very relevant for you.
No, for everybody, I'm sure it would be.
Okay, but just to be aware that that's never true. It's never going to be okay for everybody. That's the point, right? We're in a world of 7 billion. How many of those 7 billion are going to be your people? A tiny, tiny fraction. So the quicker you can cut through the crap and get to your people, the better, right? Which is why I would use that as a way to drive away the wrong people. You know, in fact, I'd say that's one of the greatest skills you can develop is a willingness to drive people away by being who you are. Because if they don't like who you really are anyway, having them around you is only going to weaken you and make your life less fulfilling. So a big part is to be willing to drive people away. If that's you and that's what you're passionate about, beautiful. You know, clear the pathway, right? Be like a snowplow. Yeah. And I wanted to share a piece about when you're interacting, because what I'm looking around, I'm seeing some animation, some connection happening between different people. And then sometimes it's not. There's a different energy going on there. And it'd just be useful for you to be aware of this, because energy exchange is kind of one of the main way to find your people. Do you feel good in each other's company? Are you adding, are you raising each other up in that conversation? It's really a good way to your arrow for, is that one of your people? So were you noticing, obviously you don't need to share here, but just, did you notice some energy in your conversations that was different, or sometimes it was higher, sometimes it was lower, right? You don't need to point at the person and go, yeah, your energy was crap, but the reality is there are only going to be some people that are yours, and and you know the thing is, often we feel guilty when we're like, that's not our person, because it'll make them feel bad. Do you know what? To be with someone who's not your person and to keep showing up and feeling like you don't want to be there, that does no service to that person, does it? That does a disservice to both of you. So actually being honest and just separating yourself from the people that are maybe draining you of energy or you can't show up as your full self with, that is a gift to them, because then they can find their people. So yeah, I don't know if that's coming. That often comes up. Yes?
So yeah, along those line of thinking, how much are you going to cover later in the presentation, but I think you go through these heavy questions and you sort of done your filtering process, and then you find, probably more often than not, that indeed this person is not one of your people. Now, how do you exit gracefully from that interaction?
Great, this is beautiful. I mean, exiting gracefully is not always possible, just to put it out there. It may be very ungraceful. Sometimes I've had people and they just talk, and there's that, when people just don't stop, and at some point I just have to go, look, I'm sorry, I've got to go, and you just extricate yourself, because guess what? They're talking at you anyway. They're not trying to connect with you, So you don't need to give that.
You set them up. Maybe they haven't been able to talk about what they stand for, and they finally feel like they're connecting with somebody. They feel like, oh, my kindred spirit. They think that you're one of them when it's not the case.
Be honest. Honesty is the best thing. No, you don't have to be horrible about it. You'd be just like, what you're sharing there is, okay. Let me share something. I was out a couple of weeks ago at my friend's birthday. We were chatting away. I've got this event that I've created called Taking the Leap, where we get to do deep coaching during the day and then a bungee jump, right? And he comes over and he goes, that Taking the Leap. He says, yeah, people got to take a leap of faith to do that with you. I'm like, okay, and chatting away. And he's like, no, but take a leap of faith. It's a joke because it's called Taking the Leap. And I'm like, I said, I knew it was a joke, it just wasn't very funny. And I didn't actually, just came out. And the guy was a bit embarrassed and that. But the reality was, he was coming up, interrupting my conversation with a crap joke, So that's what I did in that situation. And we shook hands after. And, I don't want to spend time with the guy, and he probably doesn't want to spend time with me either. But haven't we wasted a lot? There's no energy wasted there, right? Just honest, direct, and, no harm, no foul, as far as I'm concerned. So the way I see yes.
I think there is a difference between two men doing that and two women doing that. I don't think I could just say to them, yeah, I'm sorry, and just walk off. I think that there is a difference between sexes.
That's quite a broad generalisation you're doing there. Women are this and men are this.
I think women take more offence at other women doing that to them.
Again, the thing is, you cannot, if someone's offended, that's got nothing to do with you. You can never offend anybody. They offend themselves. That's just the way life works. Your beliefs and the way you feel in yourself is how you react with the world. And so if someone takes offence, that's not down to you. Now, obviously, I'm not saying go out, I mean, I would never say be horrible. I'm all about being kind to people, definitely. But with love, you can say to someone, thank you, but I need to go, I would like to go speak to someone else, or thank you, I've got to go make a phone. I mean, you can, there's many ways you could do that in a very nice way. If you go, do you know what, I've had enough of you, then that's a different story, right? But again, it's dependent on the situation, depending on the individual. And just to be honest with you, sometimes you're going to screw up, you're going to say the wrong thing, and you're going to feel crap. Guess what? That's part of it, isn't it? Until you go too far, you don't know where the line is as well. Yes?
I have a sister who we don't talk anymore now, but when we did last talk, she talks completely over me. She shouts. This is when my mother was dying as well, at a very vulnerable time in my life. And I just wondered, she's very bossy. Is there anything, I don't think she even understands that she's talking the whole time without letting a single word in edgeways or not listening to anything, which is why I've given up on it. I wonder if there's some way of pointing out to the person that they're talking over you, that they're not letting you get a word in edgeways, to make them realise what they're like. I've been looking this up, and there's something called narcissistic personality disorder. We've probably heard of it.
Yeah.
we do exchange Christmas and birthday cards. I don't want to inflame her anymore, but I will probably be seeing her at another wedding soon. And I just wonder if there's something you could make them understand the way they are.
There's different pieces to that. Yeah, there's different pieces to that. One, you can't ever make anyone understand anything. Two, you can invite them to have a different point of view by having an open conversation, but that's about as far as it goes. But what I would suggest is someone who does talk a lot is, I mean, just out of interest, when she's doing that, do you find, when you did though, did you find yourself trying to speak and she kept shutting you down? You just stopped completely?
The last time, waiting to the end of the conversation, just thinking, surely she must let me say something once. And I've got to the end of it, she never did.
To be honest with you, it depends. I mean, obviously I don't know the person itself, but you can. There are times where you could actually just literally put your hand up and say.
As well, by the way, at a funeral, they
yeah.
was the same. She never asked. Neither her nor my brother-in-law ever asked anyone about themselves, about them. It's always about themselves.
And then there's a piece of, do you really want to have a conversation with her? Is the other thing.
Well, I would rather it hadn't arrived like this, but I'm not prepared to just not be listened and have a one-way conversation. You can't exactly for that reason. You can't connect with someone like that. So.
Again, it's a choice. As I said, you can just. The reality is, play with different things. You can put your hand up and say, "Excuse me, I need to speak now." Sometimes, because there's a thing, by the way, when you put your hand up in someone's face like this, it kind of like startles them a little bit. So that can help. But the reality is, if she's just going to keep talking at you, and that's what she does. That's it.
But maybe I should try putting my hand up. I just wanted
to
stop and just make them.
And the other thing you could do, you could dance. You could start dancing in front of her, right? As she's talking too much. And when that'll freak her out, right? She'll have to stop talking, or at least ask you what you're doing. This is the other thing. Life's a game, if you play the game of life, there's these connections to, worrying what people think and, feeling ashamed about ourselves and all this stuff. It's quite heavy stuff. When life is light, it's fun, and you can play with different things. It doesn't matter, the outcome's not so important, right? I've got family members that I'd love to have a deeper connection with, but the reality is, not my people. So as much as I've tried, I don't like who they are, so I'm moving myself away from them. I would say who that is, but it's being recorded, so I'm not going to do that here right at this moment. Just say, yeah, but that's the reality is there's certain people who just will never, ever be able to connect with, and that's okay. We get to create our family, don't we? Yes?
Sometimes it does work when you say how you're feeling to somebody, You say,
they won't listen to you.
Well, if you do this...
Maybe like a sledgehammer? Yeah.
Or so pin them to the ground. And then tell them how you felt when, that you felt, however you felt when she was talking.
If she'd listened long enough to say how you felt, that's the whole point. You won't listen to how you feel.
Anyway, that is a strategy, isn't it?
Again, I always come back to be honest. If you can, one of the best things you can ever do is be completely honest. Life's a lot simpler than we make it out to be. So it's time for a break. So an interesting question was asked about is when you're in this environment here, everyone knows why you're here. So it's easy to have these deeper questions, right? Is that coming up for any of you? You're having this, what do you do when you're out in the world? So what would stop you from asking one of the questions that we've had today? What would hold you back from doing that? Yes? Feeling like you're intruding. So in this scenario, you meet someone for the first time and you're out, and it's like you're intruding. Is that because you're asking them a deeper question? So you feel like you're intruding on their personal space? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. I've got a solution for that one. Great. Yes.
Well, it's the same thing, really. Not everyone wants to open up.
Yes.
It's the same thing, more or less.
Yeah. Not everyone does want to open up. That's right.
I think it depends where you are and whether you're confident. I mean, I used to ask these kind of questions without going to coaching courses, but now I'm not in a confident place, so I tend not to these days.
And by the way, I've never done a coaching course. I wouldn't recommend them myself.
But I didn't need any encouragement.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, this is natural. You know, to connect deeply is natural. We put a load of crap in the way as we get older, thinking we have to look a certain way. In fact, a lot of my problems, you know, I had social anxiety and panic attacks in my early 20s. Like I had to, if I was talking to a girl, I'd have to run off and be sick. A small group of guys, I couldn't handle it. And I created that by, when I was like 11 years old, going to a new school, going, right, I'm in a new school now. I can become anybody that I want to be, right? So I've created this whole persona of this like mature kid who'd had a girlfriend, all this stuff. Don't know why, but I did at 11, the ripe old age of 11, right? And then, of course, I had to live into that. So I couldn't actually connect with girls because I should know how to. I couldn't have these great friendships because I'm supposed to already have them. So I ended up living a lie from that age on. Obviously, it built up a lot of anxiety in me, you know, living through lack of integrity, which then built up into panic attacks and got worse as time went on. And it came from trying to be something that I wasn't, that I didn't think I was enough on my own. And interesting, I was at an event last night called Inspired Stage in Mayfair, and the theme of the night really was about being yourself. How being yourself is perfect. How there's no human being on this planet that is better than anyone else. Doesn't matter if you're a king or whether you sweep the streets, you're the same. You just do different stuff. And we often think, you know, you can't speak to that person because they're at this level, but the only divide is here, you know, there is no divide. We are human beings who crave connection. I mean, this talk is massive waiting list, right? Second time I've done it again, massive waiting list. Why? Because people crave connection. And real connection, not the superficial stuff, which most of us do create. I mean, a number of friendships I had over the years that were just people that I had in my life, but we weren't nourishing each other, we weren't supporting each other, and some of them were quite detrimental to my health actually, and mine probably to theirs. So to be yourself, and if that means going up and driving people away by being too enthusiastic, great. You get to be you, whatever that is. And also, most of us don't actually know who we are anyway, because we spend so much time trying to be something to other people, right? So how do you find out? By doing the wrong stuff, by being willing to push people away. So in answer to your question before, literally go out, and you could even say to people that you just meet, I don't want to have the normal superficial conversations that a lot of people do. I'd love to go deeper and ask and have some real conversation. Would you like to do that with me? You know, an invitation. And then they can go, oh, I'm too scared, and they don't do it. Great. Or they could say, do you know what? Thank fuck. That I don't have to waste like an hour on nothing to find out we don't like each other anyway. Right? So, yeah, and remember, as you're doing this, don't just keep it here. Start thinking about relationships in your life that you can bring this to. You know, the current ones, and maybe opportunities you're going to have over the next few days to actually implement this stuff, you know, to make this real for you. Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Actual changing something in the way you approach your life and what you can create. And this goes for business, as Matt was saying, to your closest friendships. But most of my close friendships I've created in the past year and a half because I've become more myself and I've connected deeply. And some of the connections I've had, like I've met up with people and I've no idea why we're meeting, there's something there and we meet, and then suddenly we're like, wow, you know, we just click, and suddenly they become really close friends very, very quickly. And that goes for working relationships, that goes for deep friendships that I cherish, you know. But it all comes from being me and them being them, you know, without all the crap we lay on top. So, next one. So, yes. Actually, I'll give you the question, and then you can just dive straight in, actually, which saves a little bit of time. So the question is, what do you value most in a relationship, in a friendship, sorry? What do you value most in a friendship? And then find someone new and just share that. You know, what matters to you in that? Yeah? Great. Let's get to it. So, next one. Okay, Oh, yes. Find someone new and tell them your life story in 3 minutes. So you've got 3 minutes, and I will clap and shout the 3-minute mark and then swap, okay? Your life story in 3 minutes. Now, who managed to get their life story done in less than 3 minutes? Yeah? Isn't that interesting? I mean, how old are you guys? Yeah. But do you find a discomfort in actually sharing that? In trying to share it or encapsulating it? Was it discomforting? And yet, what better way for someone to get to know you, right, than to know how you review your life, a summary of your life and who you are? Essentially, you're telling them who you are, right, when you do that. And you're kind of reflecting that. Yes?
I think these are great exercises. If you went through life not knowing, A, what your values are, or being able to encapsulate your life story, how sad that would be. So.
Which is actually true for a lot, unfortunately. Yeah. It's really useful. But it's more than just being able to do it. It's actually communicating that to another human being, right? That's the important bit. Because you may have it here, but until you get it out here, you don't know. I mean, I've done loads of training, loads of stuff with coaching and all that kind of thing. But when I actually tried to articulate what those principles were, it's really bloody difficult. It was only after recording like hundreds of videos and writing hundreds of things that suddenly I'm like, this is it. This is what I mean, you know, because it's here, but it isn't here. And so, yeah, when it comes to your values, your life story, who you are, being able to articulate it to another human so they get it, so they feel it, it is something to be developed and to grow with. So, yeah, what other experiences did you have by doing that? The past couple of exercises, like the friendship, you know, when you're talking about what friendship means to you, and when you were sharing your life story, what came up? A slight break in the fear barrier. Oh, that's good. A slight break. You didn't smash through it yet, but it's a slight break. It's a good beginning, right? Yeah, great. Yeah. And what do you think what happened to create that break?
Doing it, yeah. Oh, what the hell?
What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Joe, that's a great phrase for a lot of things. In fact, it is, right? In fact, I use a different phrase. I normally say fuck it, to be truthful. But that's just me. I like to swear. It's really powerful 2 words, though. When you can say that, you'd be surprised what you can create from that place, you know? Now, there's an interesting concept I read about a little while ago. Someone just wrote it very well, which was to do anything in life that scares you, you actually only need about 7 seconds of courage. You know, to speak up to someone, to go up to that person, right? How long does it take to physically walk up there and say hi? It takes a few seconds. You know, anything you want to achieve in life, there's always like a few seconds to make that. I'm going to be doing a bungee jump soon, and I'm terrified of it. I've never done it. I'm going to be shitting myself if I'm honest. But I know I need a few seconds, right, to step up to that edge and to dive off. That's all I need. 7 seconds of courage. So if you want to create a life of deep connection, finding your people, be willing to have those 7 seconds of courage. And then once you're in it, right? You have to swim. You know, there's no drowning, because while we're alive, we can cope with anything, even if we don't feel like we can. Yes?
As I say, I think actually every time you do one of these scenarios, it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Because I think the first time you do it, you feel a little bit anxious and a little bit nervous, and overthinking these things tends to cripple you. I think the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah. And again, it's the overthinking, right? Because when we come from our heart, it's a lot easier. It's actually natural. Children, you put children together like toddlers, they just start playing with each other, right? And they make friends, and they'll actually make their own groups, and they're happy. What happened to us, right?
I think a lot of life is just not thinking about it, to be honest with you.
Do you mean the good parts of it is not overthinking it?
Not overanalyzing doing it.
Yeah. In fact, my journey, because I've had a very rapid journey from like a fixed mindset to just a fully created life, right? Like ridiculously fast. The reason is I went from a guy who thought stuff, to analyze it and think, I'll dip my toe in and then I'll step back, to a guy who just goes, whoa, oh shit, it's deeper than I thought, and then just trying to make my way out. That's really the essence for how I've created what I'm doing. And yeah, if you can do that, you just realize the thoughts will be there anyway and do it. That changes everything. Seriously, it becomes, life becomes exponential. And whether it's business, or whether it's life, whether it's deep creating connections, right? It's all there for you. It's just ready for you to actually take it. Yes?
I think that it's about relaxing. That for me, today, for example, I've been thinking, I sometimes can overthink things. So it's whether I attach to it or I connect. So I often allow myself to relax in the moment. so I can go with the flow.
So relaxing in the moment is important
just
for you.
Relax, because that is key, really, I think, just relaxing.
So how do you create that relaxing when you're stressed out and anxious?
Because I think that it's, we kind of think from two places. So if you can overthink and you can be narcissistic, and that's why I laughed when she said, because sometimes I think, like, I want to start my own little project and I think, oh, maybe no one wants to listen to me, or in relationships maybe I'm not lovable. So I always make it about myself
Yes.
rather than just acting.
Actually, that's a great point. When you go up to people or you're in an interaction, a lot of us are in our heads about us. How are we going to come across? What are they going to think of me? It's a bit fucking selfish, isn't it? It is, right? How selfish is that? You know, I had anxiety for years, like crippling anxiety. I was thinking about myself a lot. My friend, he had a wedding, and I was in my early 20s, he was getting married, right? Wow, my best mate getting married. I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that's happened to me. You know, I've got to go to this wedding with people, and I've got to be there and talk. I'll tell you what, it was one of the worst experiences that I'd had. And as soon as I could, I got the hell out of there and made an excuse and got a cab home, you know.
What I'm lacking in my life is what I'm not giving.
What you're lacking in your life is what you're not giving.
Yeah, so what I think that I want is really what I have to give.
Yeah.
So I should be giving more of what I think I need.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's good. And in fact, giving is the perfect way to create connections too. You know, you give and you give people your time, your attention. In fact, there was this talk last night. There was a woman called Susie Clark, and she was talking about her experiences with depression and anxiety, and what she's learned from that. And she said something that stuck in my head, which was saying hello to someone can save their life. Because she's dealt with a lot of people who are on the borders of suicide and that kind of thing. And just literally seeing in the street, looking someone in the eye and noticing them can save that life of that person, depending on what's going on. And yet so many times you're walking around and everyone's in their little tunnel vision, right? Even coming in, actually, Matt and I were at the door there. A number of people said hello to Matt and just blanked me and just walked straight past. Yes, I'm looking at you. It's just a thing, right? You sort of know Matt a little bit, so you connect with him, but now I'm going to go sit down, you know? Rather than just being open and just connecting with whoever's here. And in fact, even though you may be busy and, you know, like you say, oh, hi to people, but you haven't really got time to speak, just actually taking a moment to look them in the eyes and then to move on is, you know, can make a big difference. So, with that, let's go on to the next exercise. So if you could pick someone new again and just get quiet as quickly as you can. Actually, don't speak, in fact, this time. Just silence, find someone new, and then we'll do the next exercise. Let's test your silence abilities. Wow, not very good on the silent abilities. That has got to be the noisiest silence I've ever heard. Okay, so for this one, are you all paired up? Okay, who's not paired up? There you go. Match made in heaven. There we are. Anyone else? Yeah? Okay, would you like to come to the front? You can work with me. Okay, so this one, leading up to what I was just saying, this is about eye contact. So total silence for 1 minute, just look each other in the eyes. And when you're doing this, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, sure. And there may be giggles happening and, you know, a bit of discomfort. But there's nothing more real than looking at someone in the eyes and just noticing them. So when you're there, just in your mind, just think about, just show caring for that person through your eyes. It's the most expressive part. When they are the soul, you know, your soul speaks to your eyes. So are you good with doing that? So look someone in the eye. I know if it's guys, it may be a little bit uncomfortable, but, you know, this is about connection. So are you up for doing this? As uncomfortable as it may be. Beautiful. So 1 minute of eye contact and silence. Silence. Sit down just for a minute. Just it's nice to explore what you just experienced. So, actually, I'll wait for them to sit. So tell me, what was that like? What did you feel as you were doing that?
Interminable, 1 minute.
Yeah, that was interesting, because I heard someone say something about a minute, and it was only like, I checked, it was like 45 seconds. Seemed like a long time, right? What's that?
It didn't feel like a minute, it felt shorter.
It felt shorter for you?
I didn't say it was easy, but
Yeah,
it felt shorter.
great. And actually, the full exercise is 4 minutes, so I went easy on you. Yeah, yes.
I found it Really peaceful.
Mm.
It feels like you're giving and receiving in the simplest possible way.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, when everything's stripped back, right? It's just you, who you really are, and that person, who they really are, without all the stuff on top. What else? What else did you experience during that?
I felt connection with you. I was sent a love.
Great.
I definitely felt
Yeah. That's probably for you to talk about later. Yeah, did anyone else feel that? Just a different kind of connection? Did you get, when you get beyond the silliness and the embarrassment, you know? It's a different kind of connection, right? And just be aware in your normal conversations, you know, are you holding eye contact with people? Or do you find yourself looking away, looking at different parts of them, you know? You know, are you being fully present with them? So one of the greatest gifts you can give someone is just looking into them, right, when they're talking to you, letting them know you're actually listening and you care. You know, it's so simple, and yet we don't do it. And the other thing is, because we've got so much with our phones and distractions, we're actually used to not doing that. Our eyes are used to darting in different places, right? We're training our brains to be less able to connect. Because isn't it funny? You know, I do my coaching all over the world. My clients are in different countries, and I'm very connected to them actually, even though I may never meet some of them. And we're very, very connected. But it's how you use it that matters. You know, the mode of communication isn't as important as as how you communicate. You know, and where it comes from. And so yeah, in a place where you can speak to people all over the world, and yet the people next to you, to look in someone's eyes for a single minute was really difficult for a lot of you, right? Yeah, so in fact, if you've got personal relationships, people you care about in your life, I recommend go out there and actually do this with them. Just tell them why and all the rest of it, but just sit there quietly with them in silence, really seeing them, you know? And the thing is that when I've done this before, some people start crying. You know, things come up because they're not used to being seen in this way, you know. And people who have been in relationships find themselves actually connecting at a deeper level than they have in years, because they didn't realise how disconnected they had become. So a simple thing as eye contact can change everything. And when you're going out and you're meeting new people, you know, bring this in. Can you see how this will make such a difference, you know, to your connections, to all of your connections? Great. So have you got any questions about anything so far before we do the next thing? Yes?
I was just going to say the rudest thing, I mean, I think most partners now these days, but when I was young I did, is sometimes go into a room with certain men and certain things, we just look all around the room. It's nothing more rude than that.
Yeah, again, I would say that's created within. So, you know, of course, that's their choice. Again, I come from a place of no one can ever be rude to me. No one can ever hurt me. No one can ever. I mean, I can let them hurt me, sure, but.
I mean, while you were talking to you, I mean, they did it while you were talking to you. That's what I found so rude.
Yeah, which is a great opportunity, right? When somebody's responding in a way you don't like, you either be honest and you tell them, or go to someone else. That's not a person for you to hang around with, right? Don't waste your time with people that are not your people. Seriously, clear out the debris of your life. You know. Clear a path, because also the problem is when you're talking to all these people, who are you missing? Who are these incredible people you could be speaking with? Even people you already know that are incredible, but you're filling your time up with somebody who doesn't even care to look you in the eye and spend some time finding out about you. Seriously, yes?
But the thing about the issue about looking in the eye, there's some cultures where that is just not done. So it's not that they may not be your people, but
Yeah.
your cultural things are the reason why.
Potential, yes. Well, there's obviously a cultural sensitivity. I mean, in the UK, we have a certain way of being, and I mean, if somebody, again, it's up to them to be honest if that's the case, because I'm not going to go around the UK going, what kind of culture have you got that's different to ours, right? In the UK, that's how I'll behave. I'll assume they get it. When I'm in another country, I will find out about their what the traditions are, and then it's up to me to then do that, right? Yeah, I think be respectful of where you are, right? Definitely. And actually, I forgot your question earlier, wasn't it, about feeling intrusive when you're asking questions of people. Well, the beautiful thing about this is you share first. So you open up first, you share something. You can say about you don't like shallow conversations, and you go first, you share something. And then by doing that, you're inviting them to share back. Yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, I think thing about somebody coming across to you as, oh, he's rude. It's very easy to just say, your first, observation of somebody, just to say, oh yeah, he's rude. Or, oh yeah, he's an asshole. Like, whatever. Like, but if you understand kind of that most of these things that people do comes because they're insecure. Me acting like an idiot, with somebody might be just because I'm insecure. You know what I mean? Just because I'm like, well, maybe if I'm more real, then maybe they're not gonna like me, or maybe they're not gonna, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course, it's very complex. It's just a choice whether you want to be in that person's company and find out, or you don't, and that's a choice to make. Yeah.
Because it's happened to me where I'm like, okay, well, let me try a different angle. Let me try, asking something. Just now I'm not bothered by what you're doing right now. You're not bothering me. I'm just gonna ask you something else, and then they change. I've seen that a lot of times. So, it's my belief.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
How do you make connections with people who don't really want to connect with you, especially when you kind of have to, like, for example, like you have to work with them? There's one way, right? Quit your job like I did. The other way is to look for work elsewhere, and there's all different things you could do long term. But if you want to connect with someone, show interest in them. Because again, at work, you may be connecting superficially anyway. You probably don't really have a good understanding of who each other are. I mean, in fact, someone I was coaching a while ago, I got her to go in and start opening up to her colleagues. And interestingly, when she started doing that, she found out things she didn't know, and she actually started liking the people she didn't like before, because she just finally found out who they were. She didn't know before because they only ever interacted at this level. So that's one way. Another way, just to pay full attention to the person you're with. Bring your attention to them and who they are, and go from there. And the thing is, if you're in an environment that you're not going to extract yourself from, there is going to be a thing of they're not going to be your people. So then it's just about doing the best you can. In fact, if you're at work, do the best fucking job you can, and then they'll generally, they'll connect you or they won't. Yeah. Is that useful? Would you like to die? It's not useful enough, no? I'm kind of going to share something about me, and also want to ask them about themselves as well. But some people don't, if they don't feel like you're their person, they won't open up sometimes, and then kind of.
But is that okay?
Very superficial level, and there isn't that chance to maybe find out that maybe you actually quite like them.
Yeah. But again, this comes back to being honest. If you just said to the person, I feel that our relationship is superficial, I'd love to connect deeply with you and find out more about you. Would you like to do that? Give them the opportunity, invite them. They can say yes, they can say no. And if they say yes, but there's like a weird energy, you'll get the sense that it's a no anyway. If you tune into that sense, that energy between you, you don't need to say anything, you get it, right? So is that more useful? I'm asking the wrong question, aren't I? It is useful, you just need to apply it and test it for yourself. And that's the other thing, by the way, test anything for yourself. This is, I'm sharing stuff that I know works for me, my clients, it makes a difference with people. What will make a difference for you, only you will know. And you'll only know that by going out there and testing it. So pick something, test it out, and see what happens, really. And that's probably the best thing for creating, the life that you want, is just being like, your life is a laboratory, and you get to try a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and if it works, keep using it, right? If it doesn't, get rid of it and try something else. That's the simplest way. Cool. Okay, so next one. So this is going to be about sharing an embarrassing moment. Now, I've put it here because I thought, I can't get you to do that, me doing it first, right? Because, again, going first, it matters. So, let me share with you what I call my catastrophe date. Now, this was a few years ago. This is before I really understood how to connect deeply and the kind of stuff I'm sharing here. We'd met at the gym, and she was, we'd got on well at the gym. It seemed great, right? Actually, it's the first girl I'd asked out, actually, because the others, it kind of just happened, people I worked with. And I so asked her out. We went to Liverpool Street Station after work. It was great. But as soon as I got there, we started walking to the place. And you get a sense like, shit, we have nothing in common. I'm like, in the gym, obviously we had gym stuff to talk about, right? But in this world, it's like, I was getting that on the way there. Then, of course, I made the mistake of actually getting the address wrong where we were going, and she had high heels on. So we're walking, through the streets, trying to find, it's an old street we're walking towards, But I had no idea. So we must have done, I don't know, a couple of circles or something. She was getting knackered. She was getting annoyed. Took her trainers, put her trainers on. This is a great start to the evening. We get to the place. They sit us down, and we're sitting there. And then I start to, because I've been on personal development for a long time, and so I kind of used to sort of being very. I was beginning my path of true honesty, and I decided to start saying to this. Do you know what I said? I'm usually pretty good at connecting with people, but I just don't feel it's working. This is like 5 minutes into us sitting down to dinner, right? We just ordered. Yeah. And so then, we're chatting. She's obviously changing subject, talking about things that we might have in common. And then I'm like, for some reason, decide to tell her all the terrible things I've ever done in my life. All the worst stuff that I've done, the drug addiction, the panic attacks, the social anxiety, the time when people would knock at my door and I wouldn't answer because I was too scared, all that stuff, I was just like bombarding her with this stuff. And then also commenting like, we really don't get on, this isn't going to work out. And I was like, like when you've got when you've got something in your brain you just can't stop. And then the first course arrived, so managed to shut me up for a minute while I was eating that. And then the rest of the night just went downhill from there. It was horrendous. I mean, for her, I can't even imagine how terrible that must have been. For me, it was cringeworthy, but for her, it must have been. I mean, I imagine she tells stories of this, and maybe she's got sort of medical attention, I think, for putting her through this. But it was horrendous. And the thing was, I wasn't connecting with her. I wasn't, invited to finding out about her. It was all about me, wasn't it? And it was all about what I'd done wrong. So I did part of it right, which was sharing vulnerability, which is a good thing. But I kind of went a bit too far on that side with someone I just barely met. And I went a little bit too far with the honesty thing, didn't I? But by going too far, I kind of learned what that line is. So it was really useful, actually, for my connection since then. Interestingly, now when I meet people, it's a very different thing because I'm all about the person in front of me. And so if you bring that to it, it just changes everything. So, your turn. So pick someone new and share your embarrassing moment with each other. So whilst you're in your pairs now, we'll move on to the last phase because I didn't realise our time's running out. It goes fast, doesn't it? So this is the bit where you make it real for yourself, and this is the bit where you take something away and make a commitment to yourself to go and actually experiment with this stuff, okay? So make a commitment to yourself, because that's the only commitment that ever matters in life, by the way, to what are you going to do within 48 hours, when are you going to do it, where are you going to do it, and who are you going to do it with? Either someone you know, someone you don't know, a place that you've been or a place that you're going to, okay? Make it specific, make a commitment, and then just share that with the person you're with, what your commitment is. This isn't about being accountable to anyone, by the way. It's just about being accountable to you. And I really recommend that you do exchange details and, with people that you resonated with here. And so you take away and maybe grow your own tribe, right, from this moment, however small, however big that is from today. So, are you good with that exercise, right? A commitment to yourself within 48 hours to actually implement this stuff. I mean, hopefully you'll come to the pub, right, and you can practice there, but beyond the pub. Yeah? Is that good?
Yeah. Yes.
Fantastic. Make that commitment then and share it with the person next to you. So did you come up with a commitment to yourself of how you're going to test something out from here? Yeah? Yep. Fantastic. And there may be many things that you can test out, but as long as you do something and you commit to doing that, your life will transform. See, as a coach, what a lot of things I help people do is to change their life. It's like, oh, you can't change. Changing is so damn easy. Keeping stuck is the problem. That's the hard bit. It takes a lot of energy to stay where you are, to not approach people, to avoid people's eye contact. In fact, when it comes to sharing personal things, one of the things that I've done with a lot of my clients, actually, recently particularly, it's like they've had this thing which they've been protecting, like hiding for many years. They didn't want to be defined by this thing. But what that means is that every communication, every time they're speaking to someone, their mental energy, unconscious and conscious, is actually being directed not to share that thing. Now imagine the amount of energy that takes, right? And every time, once they start sharing this thing that they've been holding on to for years, they feel lighter. They feel more connected, and they find it much easier to meet people, to connect with people, and to create the life they want. So going first and sharing something that you think maybe you're ashamed of or that you don't like is actually how you create the life you want with the people you want. So if you just look at, I just wanted to show you the list of what you wrote again, as to how this is relevant, because you need each other, because we learn about ourselves by engaging with others. We have belonging and acceptance, be fulfilling, right, with a deeper connection. Fun and variety, definitely. I have much more fun with my people than I do others. Also, just a side note, I'm actually very introverted. I mean, at least by nature I was. And now I'm kind of flipped between on the scale. But what that means is that I get drained of energy when I'm with people who are not my people. But when I'm with my people, it doesn't matter the size of the group, even though I've got that introverted way of being. So very much, if you're on the introverted side or you think you are, when you're around your people, you give each other energy and it doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. Personal progression, obviously, and expanding reality. And that's probably one of the big ones, actually, expanding reality. Because the world you live in is the world you create every day. So, I mean, as an example, right, a couple of years ago, I wanted to do this thing called coaching. I'm like, what the hell is this? I've got myself a coach. And I was like, but how am I going to go from this guy who works at this fixed job to someone who does this for a living? Well, guess what? I reached out to all people who have already done it. People who are already way ahead, earning like millions a year doing it, right? I brought those people into my world. I brought people into my world doing the same thing I am. Suddenly, I went from a world of nothing to a world of filled with people doing what I love and my kind of people. Then, is it any surprise that a couple of years later I created it? No, it happened because of who I walk with and who reflects me, because the people in your life are a reflection of you. Make sure it's a beautiful reflection. So just to finish up, if you want me to become part of your tribe or you'd like to catch up with my stuff, here's my links. On Facebook is where I share most stuff. I record videos, literally how to create anything you want in life, overcome fears. In fact, falling in love with fear is one of my things. And deep connections, about sharing this stuff. So if you want to, please feel free to friend me on Facebook and to check out my stuff. Otherwise, the main thing for me is that you go out and you implement. You actually use this to change something. Just one small thing, whether it's with a loved one or someone new. Actually go do this. So, will you go do this?
Yes.
Great. At least most of you said yes, so that's good. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Oh, yes, one question.
Yeah, it's not a question.
I'd
like to make a statement.
Okay.
And I'd like everyone to make some indication of whether they agree with what I'm saying. I'd just like to say, David, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I feel like in less than 2 hours, I've come a long way, and it's been quite unusual to come to a talk like this, where you kind of have this hope and this expectation that something's gonna really help you, and oftentimes it doesn't. And I think one ingredient you brought, because you know it works and it's meaningful, is that you've actually got us together. You've kind of led us on a journey that's taken, hopefully, some of us, even if it's one big step, it's made a real difference that I think probably will be lasting. And I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
What do you guys want to say?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.